What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/FatPeopleStories. Alright, this story's called Ham Beach. I haven't thought about this in years, but reading some of the stories on this sub brought it to mind. After spending nearly a decade in the American South, I'm no stranger to ham planets and their entitled behavior. However, the following is probably the most heartbreaking fat people story I've ever experienced. It's the dead of summer, with daytime temperatures well in excess of 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and my best friend and I head to a local swimming hole to cool off. We live at the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, so there are plenty of options. Our favorite place is a secluded river nestled in the thick woods. There is a parking lot, a trail leading to the shore, and a little man-made sand beach to give visitors a place to tan and rest. It's really nice, and if you arrive before noon, you basically have the whole place to yourself. So my friend and I get there around 9 a.m. and begin our swim. It's already blazing hot, and we're hoping to be finished by the time the crowds filter in. A few hours pass, a few families show up, a few boats drive by. We dry out on the beach and munch on some of the snacks we brought. As more people arrive and the area begins to fill up with children and sunbathers, we notice that the couple settling in closest to us are absolutely massive, like easily in the 400 pounds range. We're a little stunned that they made it down to the water from the parking lot. The trail is fairly steep, and can't help but quietly comment on this to each other. Even more surprising is that their two children are both on the thinner side of normal weight. I'd guess they were between the ages of 6 and 10, with one being a couple of years older than the other. We watch as the kids excitedly race down to the water and wade in while their parents set up oversized folding chairs in the sand and unpack their lunches. They've been here for only a few minutes and are already preparing to eat what looks like a full meal. My friend and I exchange another glance and put away our trail mix. Swimming has a tendency to work up a powerful appetite in both of us, but due to the heat, a few nuts and pieces of fruit were about all we could manage. We take one last dip before calling it a day, and while making our way to the safety rope, we hear a screech from the shore. Mama Ham is standing at the water's edge, gesturing wildly and raising hell. At first, we think it's directed at us, but then we notice her eldest son is a few feet away, splashing under the rope. The depth at this part of the river is easily 12 plus feet. The current is gentle, but beyond the rope, it gets stronger. Beyond that, there's only a short distance between the second rope that demarcates the boating lane. It's extremely dangerous to swim any further than that. There is no lifeguard on duty. There is never a lifeguard on duty. My friend, who is a strapping 6'2" and pure muscle, immediately goes on alert, ready to grab this kid and pull him to safety. But he climbs on top of the rope and yells back at his mom. We see the younger boy attempting to reach his brother, though he is clearly not a strong swimmer at all. Mama Ham appears to give up and waddles back to her chair, plopping down and resuming her lunch. Papa Ham has not reacted at all. He seems totally disinterested in anything that might be going on around him. My friend and I are kind of freaked out and scan the rest of the swimmer to make sure nobody else is doing dumb crap. We don't see anyone playing near the ropes, but there are at least 20 or so children in the water at this point. As we examine the crowd, it slowly dawns on us that we are the only fit, athletic people in the entire area. Everyone we can see is either under the age of 14 or obese. A few individuals are both. The two planets sitting nearby are definitely the heaviest ones, but there are no able-bodied adults anywhere on the beach. None of the parents seem at all capable of saving their child from drowning. Obviously, we find this disturbing, not only because of the inherent danger, but because we are so accustomed to being surrounded by fat people, we didn't even notice the elephant seal colony taking shape around us. We talk it over and decide to stay until someone else able to help in a crisis shows up. We resent having to become impromptu lifeguards, but we know we'd never forgive ourselves if something happened to one of these kids. And I don't even like kids, but man, there really is no other choice. The sons of Mama and Papa Ham are still struggling to swim in the deep end, and we know enough from previous encounters with those kinds of parents that talking to them will likely get us nowhere. I mean, if you recognize your child is doing something dangerous and make only a half-hearted attempt to stop him before heeding the call of your sandwich, you probably don't have your priorities in order. To make a long story short, we ended up staying a full 3 hours past the time we originally wanted to leave. Eventually, we saw a couple of wiry redneck dudes hauling a cooler of beer onto the beach and decided that would have to suffice. We were sunburned, exhausted, and frankly pissed off at the position we were in. Normally, we're both very tolerant of larger people, but the sheer amount of negligence and gluttony we witnessed that day gave us a different perspective. What if we hadn't been there? What if that little boy got tangled up in a fishing line or pulled under by a current? Those two freaking ham beasts would have watched their own son drown right before their eyes because lunch is more important than a human life. How they were able to sit out there in the punishing heat without having a stroke is even more of a mystery. My friend and I were so shaken and disgusted by this experience, we did our swimming elsewhere for the rest of the summer. Okay, I'm gonna be real with you. You're kinda complaining about a position you kinda put yourself in, and I get it. You wanna be a responsible person and make sure these kids are supervised. However, you saying that whole beach of people, not one of them would be able to save a drowning child or something, that's just not really fair, man. Like, big people can be good swimmers. Like, that weight's gotta give you some buoyancy, right? But regardless, to assume that no one on the beach would be able to save them is kinda ridiculous. And, I don't think it's worth complaining about. I mean, yeah, it's a good thing you stuck around, but you just didn't have to. I don't know, this one's kinda iffy. Like, the whole, oh, me and my friend are usually very tolerant of larger people. What exactly are you tolerating? That's my question. I don't know, just the level of detachment you seem to have is just kinda goofy. Alright, this story's called The Knitting Club Encounters a Ham. Hi, Fat People Stories, Red here. I have a story I think y'all might enjoy. It's been a minute since I have spun a yarn, so forgive my clunky storytelling. Also, I'm wordy. If there is not enough fat logic in this story, please boot me. It very much belongs in Bad People Stories as well, but I thought there was enough hammery to fit the Fat People Stories bill. Here's the cast of characters. There's me, the 30 novice knitter, Lauren, 50-ish shop owner, fabulous and very Jewish, Sue, Nancy, Maria, Amy, and Jen, fellow knitters of various ages, very sweet women, Helen, late 20s, early 30s, the ham. I'm a 30 going on 90 sort of gal. I figured I might as well get a jump on accumulating some new skills to impress the gents at the nursing home. To that end, I recently took up learning to knit. I bought a couple of classes from a local shop and spent a terrifying 2 hours being instructed to knit in Pearl with Lauren, the shop's owner. I've since figured out that she's not mean, she's just very loud, and sometimes her loud comes out in Yiddish. I am currently kvetching my way through a waffle scarf with a beautiful blue yarn. With the lessons at the shop came a truly lovely community of women who gather often at the shop's work tables and knit together. It's precisely what you imagine. There are cookies and tea cakes, hot coffee, the clacking of needles, and the occasional debate on how to interpret a knitting pattern. I'm not terribly social by nature, but I have gotten comfortable with these ladies. They remember little things, like the fact that you went to the doctor, and what did he say about that weird swelling on your leg? And how is your mother's kitchen remodel going? It's a very calm, peaceful, happy little environment. Or it was. I showed up for the Saturday morning workshop 10 minutes early to make sure I got my favorite spot at the table. I was disappointed to find it occupied by a very fat woman with long, blue, acrylic nails. She was struggling to knit because her nails kept getting tangled in the yarn. As everyone found a seat, a visibly annoyed Lauren introduced us all.
Ladies, please give a warm welcome to Helen. She just graduated this morning.
When you complete a Knitting 101 class, Lauren calls it graduation. Everyone very politely wished Helen a good morning. Helen responded with what I can only describe as a smirk and returned her eyes to her knitting nails. Sue, a very experienced knitter, had sat down next to Helen. She glanced at the tangle of yarn in Helen's hands and said,
You have very pretty nails, sweetheart, but it might be easier for you to knit if you cut them a little shorter. Yeah, someone already said that. They were rude too,
Helen replied, giving Sue a very mean look. Sue looked surprised for a moment before turning away and starting a conversation with Maria. Lauren appeared and placed several plates of homemade tea cakes and cookies on the table.
Does anyone want coffee?
Helen put her knitting down and reached with both hands for the nearest cookie plate.
Yes, make mine with 5 sugars and 4 creams.
We all looked at each other and looked at Lauren, who raised a very displeased eyebrow. No please, no thank you, just
make mine.
Meanwhile, Helen had taken 3 fairly large and gooey cookies and put them on top of her knitting project. Nancy gasped and reached for the mess of yarn.
Oh no, honey, you'll ruin. Don't touch my cookies. There are totally enough for everyone.
Nancy pulled her hand back and just blinked at Helen in shock.
Helen, I'm really not appreciating the rudeness. These ladies are only trying to point out that you'll ruin your yarn getting food on it.
Lauren's tone was icy. Helen shrugged as though apologizing, her mouth full of the 3rd cookie, but did not bother making eye contact with Sue or Nancy. The table had gotten much quieter than usual. Everyone kept their eyes on their knitting. I was genuinely focused for a good 30 minutes before I looked up to give my eyes a break. It was then that I realized that, except for a few random broken bits, the only treats left on the table were the tea cakes, because they were too far away for Helen to reach. She had not resumed knitting since the cookies had been put down, and it was clear from all the clean napkins in front of everyone, used in lieu of plates, that nobody else had had a cookie. Her project was visibly dirtied from the crumbs and chocolate and butter. In an effort to ease tension, Maria and Jen attempted to engage Helen in conversation.
So what do you do for a living, Helen? I'm a consultant. Oh, what kind of consultant? It's more like a brand ambassadorship. I work for this amazing makeup company called Arbonne. You've probably never heard of it. It's super high end. Oh, how nice. Isn't that like Mary Kay? No, not at all like Mary Kay. It's way better.
I'm full-blown staring at this rude bimbo now. I can't help it. Every word she says is in the snottiest tone imaginable. And to top it off, this has to be the most backwards-ass multi-level marketing sales tactic I have ever seen.
I used to work for this company called Beachbody, but I got so much hate and persecution there. They're really ableist, and I felt so attacked. I'm actually suing them right now. Oh, wow. That's so terrible. Oh yeah, they were really negative. They basically built a company on the basis of telling women they were ugly because they were fat and discriminating against people of size. I mean, seriously? In this day and age?
At this point, Amy had raised her hand to catch Lauren's attention. Amy is a shy young woman with special needs and has a palsy in her hands, which makes it difficult for her to use them. Regardless, she knits and knits very well. However, when Helen spotted Amy's palsied hand in the air, she freaked out.
Ew, oh my God, what is wrong with you?
Nobody knew what Helen was talking about and stared in confusion. Helen pointed at Amy with her awful blue talons.
Your hand is all like intellectually disabled. What is that?
There was no shocked silence this time. There was an uproar. In the midst of several very angry women telling her off, Lauren swept a shocked Helen's project into Helen's purse, yanked out her chair, and began forcefully escorting her out.
You are absolutely not welcome in this establishment ever again. If you come back, I will call the police and have you removed immediately. How dare you insult my customers? Get out of my shop.
Helen had been stunned, but this woke her up. She started to scream back.
You are all stupid and can't handle the truth. You can't handle it coming from someone better looking and better off.
She hollered other stupid insults in less than creative invective, clacking her nails as she allowed herself to be pushed out. Suddenly, she rushed back to the table, grabbed the plate of tea cakes, and practically stampeded out the door, screaming, "Bimbos!" Poor Amy was consoled, the knitting hour was extended, and we all angrily carried on with our projects, with renewed energy as Lauren had told us how very pathetic Helen's first lesson had been.
I never imagined she would be so rude. I'm very sorry, everyone, for having to endure her. She is absolutely banned.
I'm happy to report that things are back to normal, and we now have a horrible, funny story to tell the new people, who, so far, are much nicer. So, Karen must have got mixed up when she was working for Beachbody. Yeah, because you see, with Beachbody, I remember this. So, they had all the Beachbody applicants. They had to turn right, okay, at the beach, all right? Well, she was supposed to go left because Beachbody to the right, beached whales to the left. All right, this story's called Surgery? No Assistance for You. So I've watched this sub for a while. A lot of people have accused me of being flat out fat phobic here. I've seen that from time to time, but usually there's a point and it's not just about being mean to fat people. Thing is, for me, where do you go when you are literally being hurt by fat people being fat and lazy? That's my story. I had surgery a couple of weeks ago and I spent a few days in the hospital. When I got out, I was able to walk around and stuff, but it was a bit of a struggle. I had to stop at the grocery store to pick up a few food things like bread and eggs and a few quick, easy-to-make foods. It's hard to stand at the stove and actually cook food right now, and I needed to get some stuff from the pharmacy for post-op care. I was still sore and stiff and tired, and I thought one of those motorized carts would be ideal for the situation, right? I would think I'm exactly the kind of person those are for, aren't I? Turns out none were available. The reason none were available? As soon as I walked up the aisle, I was stopped by two ham planets, each in their own motorized carts, discussing with themselves exactly what kind of potato chips they want to get. That's the world for them. Being 500 pounds gets you assistance, but recent surgery gets ignored. Okay, I will say this. OP 100% in the right to be annoyed, because that does sound like an annoying thing to do. However, can 100% blame those people? Yeah, sure, they probably aren't the people that those carts are intended for, but if they have limited mobility, and even if it is their fault, whoa, you can't really fault them for using the scooter. However, yeah, you didn't do anything wrong either, so. Damn, I'm sorry guys. My voice right now, it must be adjacent to a very attractive woman because that's what's crack-a-lackin' right now. Get it? Because if someone walks up to a lady, they're like, what's crack-a-lackin'? And they could be like, oh, Zach's voice, right there. That was stupid. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.